All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Integrity Racing Show. My name is Jacob Fife, and our guest tonight is going to be James Hudson, my teammate from the league. As you can tell tonight, we are hostless due to a scheduling conflict. Todd wasn't able to be here tonight, which I'm sure we'll miss him as we go through the show. You can watch me mess up a few times, but that's okay. So let's get right to it. We're going to go into our Bristol race from this past Monday night. Which was interesting, needless to say. We're going to pull a screen share up here, and we'll look at the results. Nicholas Ward was the winner from last Monday night's race, which has a lot of chase implications, which we'll look at here in a few minutes. But we'll go over the top five. Carlos Fonseca, another cut line guy in the chase, was second place with an outstanding run. Tyler Thur came into the third position. Matt Bontempi was fourth, and another solid run for Cody Smith, who backed up his second place from the previous week's race to take home another top five finish. As you can tell, James and I are nowhere to be found towards the top 10. We both had some issues for sure and some rough nights. James, why don't you tell us a little bit about your night?
Well, I was trying to play the qualifying game, and it didn't really work out exactly how I planned it. Started at, I believe, it looks like 17th. Ended up getting into the first couple accidents and then going 2 laps down with about 2 minutes of damage to start within the first 20 laps. So finally got my way back up into the lead lap and all my damage fixed throughout all the cautions. I got it all fixed. And then ended up getting over my incident count limit, and kind of ended my night. So it didn't exactly go as planned. It was rough. It was a rough race.
Yeah, we definitely, both of us definitely had a rough night for sure. I know in my case, I got in a couple early incidents, and tried to hang in there and repair the car as best I could. And then I got into another accident, and just, it's Bristol. That stuff's going to happen. I think a lot of cars are in that same boat. I was able to salvage close to top 20, I think it was. I think you were a few positions ahead of me. And you just got to make the best of it. Sometimes it's just not your night. But yeah, so from there, what we'll do is lead ourselves into the admin section of the show, so to speak, where I'm going to go over a couple things. So we had a few appeals from Bristol that I'll have to go over with you. First, 2 of them are from James. He had 2 appeals he was trying to get overturned for a couple of his cautions, and they were upheld. So sadly, as we'll look at the caution count here in a minute, James won't be with us next week. He got to hear his suspension live. So,
thanks.
But then there was another appeal from Adam de Blasio. Wanted to appeal one of his cautions, and that was also upheld. It was a tie, and the tie goes to me. So, so that was upheld. He only has 1 caution for the season, and considering that we reset here in a couple weeks after Richmond, I think he'll be pretty safe. So, which is a good thing for him, because he's going to be pretty well in the chase, it looks like, and we'll look at that in a little bit. So with that mentioned, we'll look at our caution count and bring that up. Let me do that here real quick. See, this is the nice things of when you have Todd around. He takes care of all this, and you just talk. But as you see from the caution count up here, you see James there with 4 cautions currently after Bristol. So like I said, he won't be with us next week. The other thing I would have you to notice as we kind of look down through these standings is basically the amount of drivers with 2 cautions, myself included, that are coming up on that point. A lot of chase guys, when you look at myself or Brennan Burcroft, you see there at the bottom that Brian Terry hit his 3rd caution this past Monday night, so he will not be with us as well for Michigan. But in his case, luckily, he was able to secure a win earlier in the season, and he's safe for his chase spot. But you do see he has the 3 cautions there. And like I said, there's several guys with 2 cautions, which means, or you have to keep in mind, that when we get to Richmond, if you get that 3rd caution at Richmond, you'll be suspended for the first chase race. So some people might have to think long and hard about how they're going to approach that as we get into Richmond. But like I mentioned before, Brian Terry and James here will be suspended for next week, and as we head to Michigan. But hopefully they'll be able to kind of correct it a little bit, and we'll go on from there. So with that being said, we'll switch over and we'll take a look at our chase standings since we brought them up here. So let me pull that up. You can tell I'm great at this screen sharing stuff. Let's see here. So as I mentioned, with Nick being the winner from this past Monday night's race, that locks him into the field and creates a shift in the cut line, which basically means that the cut line right there is at Carlos Fonseca. He is 19 points ahead of Michael Duell. Both of them have been running extremely well. You see right below them is our guest tonight, James Hudson. And James has had some tough luck over the past couple weeks. So kind of give us your strategy over the next couple weeks as we get closer to Richmond, James, and what you're hoping to do to get yourself locked in there.
Well, obviously next week I'll be drinking a beer and watching y'all race. But the next week I believe we go to Darlington, and I really like that track in the truck series. So hopefully some of that will kind of roll over into these cars, and maybe I'll do a little practicing while y'all are racing and see if I can't get a good finish. Pretty much where the points are now, I'm going to either need a lot of luck or a win to get in. So we're just going to have to really be a little bold on the strategies and be a little more aggressive than what I've been all year. I've been trying to take it easy and play smart, but I've just, like you said earlier, I've had a lot of bad luck, either me doing something stupid and the internet giving up, or me just getting into other people's stuff. And that's just racing. You really can't help it. But so, yeah, they're pretty much either shooting for a win or hoping that some non-winners in the chase have some really bad luck.
Yeah, if you noticed over the past about 3 weeks ago or so, James was pretty safely in the chase on points. I think he was right around where Cody Smith is now currently. So like I said, a lot of bad luck as of recent, but you definitely have the talent to get in to the chase. But I think at this point, yourself and Brad Wren and our other teammate on integrity, Trevor Dalton, will have to have a little luck go their way to get on points. So they're all, basically everybody from James on back is probably going to have to look for a win. If you look to the right, in the comments section, Adam kind of broke down the cut line and things like that, which just off the screen for the chase. You can, if you're 151 points out, you're basically out of the chase at this point, unless you win. So definitely a lot to look at. The other impressive thing I'd want to mention real quick before we move on is we've had 14 different winners this year. 4 of them are not eligible for one reason or another, but you can look at the top 10 side. That whole left side of the board is covered with winners who are eligible for the chase. So that's very impressive. It shows the amount of talent that's within the league, and it also shows, basically just how good you have to be to make it in there. As you look on the right side of the board there, the people who are on the right side aren't exactly slouches by any means either. You have guys who've had, second, third, fourth place finishes a lot and just haven't been quite able to break through. So props to all the guys who've won so far this season. It's definitely going to shape up to be a very interesting final couple races as we work our way into the end of the regular season and onto the chase races. So we'll kind of scroll our way through a couple of different standings tonight, just to kind of get everybody updated on where everyone's at. We looked at the caution count. We looked at the chase standings. Now we'll move on to the Rookie of the Year standings here and give you guys a look at that real quick. And let's pull it up here. There we go. So obviously Adam has had a very good season in terms of the Rookie of the Year standings. He's done a really good job of maintaining, obviously showing up for every race helps, but maintaining consistently throughout the season. And nobody has really been able to challenge him for that position. James, I think you've been in this position before in terms of back where in the Truck Series battling for Rookie of the Year and things like that. What is your input on the Rookie of the Year standings, and what have you seen so far that kind of has kind of shown on your attention?
It really is. It's a lot of fun. I do remember. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember the guy's name. He doesn't really race with us anymore. That I think he edged me out. I think I was actually at a race on the last race of our season, and ended up him beating me in the last race. So it was pretty fun little battle when I did it. But to be honest with you, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it. But it looks like Adam's pretty well got it locked up. But like you said, I think it's a big. If you're there for almost every race, you got a good shot at it anyway. And Adam's pretty good about running up front most of the time, so that definitely helps.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, like I said, you saw there, past tense, that Adam was in the lead. You had Brad Wren, who had 22 races so far. He's running in second. And then you have a few others like Brennan Burcroft, Joseph Yakes in fourth, and Ty McWhorter in fifth, who have the ability to work their way up the board a little bit, but I think it's going to take a good amount to beat Adam at this point. And he's done such a great job through the course of the season. So basically from there, we'll take a look. I don't think I have. No, I don't. I don't have the team challenge up. So we won't look at it. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our guest for tonight. We'll talk for a few minutes with James. James and I have known each other for a few years now. He's been with us in our first season in Integrity Racing League. He joined up with us. Had a little hiatus there last year, but has come back and joined us. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, James. Where you're from and what you're into other than iRacing, and maybe tell us something we might not know about you.
All right. Well, I am from Appomattox, Virginia. It's smack dab in the middle of Virginia. I guess it's about 2 or 3 hours away from Jacob, so it's kind of cool. Outside of iRacing, I'm a mechanic. I work at a Chevrolet dealership, and pretty much anything motor related. I know it sounds kind of cliche with the whole racing deal, but anything with wheels, I like to do a little tinkering on the side with some performance cars when I can get to them. Something you may not know. I know probably a lot of the new guys don't really know it, but I'm sure this will kind of lead into something. I did used to work in NASCAR. I was a pit crew member. I was a tire carrier on quite a few different teams. I did a year in ARCA, and then I did a year in the Trucks and Nationwide series. So it may be something not a lot of people know.
Yeah, I obviously knew that, but basically, why don't you tell us the route that you kind of went to get to that point? I know you were at UNO, which is, I'm a butcher, at University of Northern Ohio. They have a race program there. Oh, thank you.
You're close.
I try. But I think you were up there for a couple of years. I know Marcus Lambert and a couple other guys are up there now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the process that maybe led you to getting onto a NASCAR team as far as pit crewing goes?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I was at the University of Northwestern Ohio, and I was up there for about 3 years. And starting my second year, I joined what they have, or what they call an over-the-wall club and the race club. Pretty much what that is they have an old donated Richard Childress Car Tomorrow car that they let us practice pit stops on. And so we started practicing. I ended up getting pretty decent at it, and went to talk to a few teams at Salem, Indiana for an ARCA race. And a buddy of mine was already on one and got me to hook up on a good team. So started there, and then worked for a year for them, being as a mechanic and a tire carrier. Excuse me. The next year, I ended up getting hooked up with a guy that had his own, I guess you call it like a freelance agency for pit crewing, but I was pretty much stuck on one team for ARCA and then another team for Nationwide and trucks. I was pitting for Joe Nemechek and John Hunter Nemechek for my second year. For most of the races, I did do a race for Junior Motorsports also as a little side gig one time for a nationwide race. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got there. You just kind of once you get in, you have to really talk and get to know people. So that's about anywhere. It's not about what you know; it's about who you know.
That sounds about right for about most anything in life. I think it's more about the connections you make than it is the knowledge or ability you might have. So kind of leading off of that, in your time in the NASCAR series, did you, what kind of practice did y'all have to do, and what's the ability level, I guess, of the the tire changers and stuff like that might separate, say a top level team from somebody who's other than practice, obviously, but other than who's maybe trying to work their way into a series like ARCA or something like that.
The practice is a lot of working out, believe it or not. It really is. The tires, the short track tires are right around 40, 45 pounds a piece, and the super speedway tires, the dual liner tires are very heavy. They're 55, 60 sometimes, depending on ARCA or NASCAR. So it's a lot of upper body strength. Actually, it's full body strength. You really got to use about all your muscles in your body. And it's the consistency. Consistency is key. If you actually slow down and watch some of the guys on Sunday when you're looking at them, if you just kind of watch them, they really look fast. But if you break it every step down, they really do look like they're moving in slow motion. If you know what to watch for, they would rather you be consistent, able to do mid-11 pit stops than do 1:10.5, then 1:12.8, then 1:10.6, and then 1:13.5. They'd rather you just be consistently in the mid-11. So that's really what kind of separates the men from the boys when it comes to that kind of deal, and it helps you go up. Luckily, I was able to catch on pretty quick. It's not a normal thing for people to move up very fast. A lot of times you don't get into the Sprint Cup until you're mid-20s, late 20s, or either you just were fresh out of college. A lot of athletes, like in football, that didn't make the cut into the NFL will get drafted straight to NASCAR. That's where Joe Gibbs gets probably 90% of his people from, is off of college football players that didn't make it, because obviously they're strong and agile. So just teach them a little hand-eye coordination, and usually they can do pretty good. So, but yeah, as long as you have your, like I said, hand-eye coordination, and you're actually pretty athletic, you got to be pretty strong. I bulked up about 30 or 40 pounds when I started from start to finish. So kind of shows you about how much of a gain you can really get. But that's pretty much it, just consistency and strength.
I got you. Well, obviously, from what it sounds like, and I know we've had conversations about it before, you're very talented if you're able to get into the upper tier of NASCAR when you're working with Truck Series Nationwide, things like that. So for those of you who may not know, what was the one thing that kind of led you away to kind of get back, to kind of get out of it then? Because like I said, you obviously have talent. So what was kind of the main reason that you decided to kind of go back into a different path?
Definitely family. It was a blast, and I don't regret ever doing it. Sometimes I regret leaving, but when I'm able to sit at home and just kind of chill out with my family on the weekends, it definitely makes up for it. Family is very important to me. And when I was into the racing, I would be gone sometimes from later Wednesday to Sunday or Monday. So seeing them about 2 or 3 times a week, and that's coming fresh off of college. Also, where I was away for a long time, I'd kind of gotten a little homesick and a little got distant from the family. I really wanted to get that back, and I'm very glad that I did. Sometimes I do regret it. Me and the girlfriend now have talked about me going back into it because you can make some really daggone good money if you get up to the high tier. But that was my choice, and going back, I didn't. A lot of people probably think I did something stupid or messed up, but no, actually, I was moving up. After I did the race with Junior Motorsports, they actually had called me back and wanted me to come back and work specifically with them the next year. I probably would have been pitting either the 5 or the 88 the next year in the Nationwide Series full time, but I turned it down. Sometimes I think I'm an idiot, but I turned it down, mainly for the reason I wanted to be closer to family.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely understandable. I think it's hard to realize sometimes that these teams are basically, nomads almost. You're gone 30 weeks of the year. You don't see your family for long periods of time, especially if you're doing a West Coast swing or something like that. I would imagine you stay out on the West Coast. So, I mean, it can really be hard, if you're trying to create a family situation or something like that, that, you're gone for 35, 40 weeks out of a year or something like that. So that definitely gives some insight on some of the behind-the-scenes stuff of a NASCAR team or pit crewing. So definitely thank you, James, for giving us a few answers to that, and definitely a very interesting interview for sure.
Yeah, man.
So we'll kind of head into Michigan is where we're going to be next week. I know, and I almost did it. We talked about it in pre-race. I almost asked James how he thinks his race is going to be at Michigan, but sadly he won't be there. But I know we'll take a look at our last year's results, if I can pull them up here. There they are. And kind of take a look at what happened last time when we were out there. So last year, Adam Benefiel was able to take the win last summer. And then Colton Lands came in second. Trevor Dalton, who obviously, as we talked about earlier, who's trying to get into the chase and get himself a win, is had a good run there last year. So he has potential to back that up this year. I'm sure he's hoping. William Dunn and then Guillermo Alvarez rounded out your top 5 there. As you look, we had 4 cautions in the race and 13 lead changes. So looking into this coming Monday night's race, I'm sure, or I'm certainly hoping that Monday night's race will be a lot cleaner than this past Monday night. Obviously, you have 2 completely different tracks in terms of a half mile at Bristol and then your 2-mile track in Michigan. But it always provides for exciting racing. I think with the new dynamic track surface, you'll have a lot of different lanes you can kind of work with and search around for a little bit. And hopefully, I haven't done any laps yet, but hopefully it'll be another opportunity for myself and others who are either trying to get the win or get into the chase to work their way onto that chase grid, as we only have 3 races left until we hit the end of the regular season at Richmond and then the beginning of the chase. So definitely getting to the nitty-gritty down here, and definitely looking forward to Monday night and seeing what we can come up with. So that's about it for our show. Thank you for your patience tonight, for the viewers, for bearing with me as I kind of stumble my way through. And also want to say thank you to James for joining us tonight and give us a great interview and some insight as to some of the things we talked about earlier in the show. We hope to see you guys Monday night for our race in Michigan, and then see us next week as our capable host, Todd, will hopefully be back. And we'll discuss the things that happen in Richmond and look ahead to our other races as we get closer to the chase. Hope you enjoy the show, and you guys have a good night.